Hi guys, it's Joe Tommaso from the 15 Minutes With podcast. Our show is geared toward helping to keep not only teens but people in general out of our jails and prisons. Our show is unique in the fact that we use real inmates throughout the country and they explain not only about the cases that caused their incarceration, but why it's so important for people to stay out of prison and remain free. Speaking of free, have you heard about the newest and best way to put your podcast out there for the world to hear? Let me tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to produce and distribute your ideas, your podcast, and the best part, it's free. There's even a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so people can hear it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other listening platforms. You can even make money from your podcast, and there are no minimal amount of listeners required. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this edition of 15 Minutes With. My name is Joe Tommaso, and today is day 42 of the coronavirus pandemic in the U.S. It is also April 11th, 2020. We're going to be speaking to a wife of a prison inmate who is currently housed in the care and custody of the Commissioner of Corrections in the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri Department of Corrections was approached by a local news organization there. They pretty much refused to give them any information other than to say that they do have a sanitizing procedure and they do have a pandemic plan for each and every prison in the state. They also went on to say that they had one case of coronavirus and only one case. However, that one case did result in a fatality. So these families are worried that their loved ones are indeed going to catch the coronavirus and not be properly cared for, or catch the coronavirus and die. And to an extent, some of these families, theirs are justified. The state of Missouri is currently at almost 4,000 for people who have captured the coronavirus. They are also at 101 deaths. Just yesterday, April 10th, the entire United States reported 2,000 deaths, the most deaths since this pandemic started in one day. Now, as far as sanitizing, the inmates cannot have bleach, they cannot have ammonia, they cannot have hand sanitizer. They're only given one trial size or sample size bar of soap from the Department of Corrections per month. How are you supposed to protect yourself by washing your hands with nothing but water? I just don't get it. Let's see what she tells us is going on at her husband's facility. If you guys want to see me keep this show going and want to see it get better, please, by all means, donate to paypal.me/Joe Tommaso. That's paypal.me/JoeTomaso. If you'd like to ask a question, if you'd like to make a suggestion, if you have somebody you'd like to see me try to interview, please email me at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Again, that's insidetherazorwire@gmail.com, or you can snail mail me at P.O. Box 162, West Haven, Connecticut 06516. So without further ado, here's this edition of 15 Minutes With. Okay, so what's your name and where are you located? Where are you calling from?
My name is Niko, and I'm from Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, and you're calling in regards to what's going on with your husband right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where is he located at right now?
He is in Missouri Department of Corrections at the Ozark Correctional Center in Fort Hood, Missouri.
Okay. Can you tell me what's going on there?
Ever since the big COVID outbreak, he's been telling me that there's no soap. The soap that they get is extremely watered down. I know that there's a ratio that they have to go by, but I mean, it's pretty much all cut with water. Right. There's no proper cleaning supplies. There's no sanitizer, no nothing.
You're saying they don't get hand sanitizer. I'm taking it they don't get bleach. They don't get ammonia. None of that.
None of that. No, they're given. I can't remember the exact name, but I know it's one of your like natural cleaners. That's not even it's not an antibacterial at all.
Okay, so it's not even an antibacterial. Now, let me ask you, what about personal hygiene? Are they allowed to get soap there? Are they allowed to get, can they go to the commissary and buy hand sanitizer?
Hand sanitizer, no. They can buy their own soap, like bars of soap, but I know that has a limit on it. But no, hand sanitizer like across the board is none.
Okay, and I believe that's probably because there's a 71% alcohol rate in there. Although, when I was talking to you prior to the interview, the governor, I believe, said that they were actually going to lift the restrictions on hand sanitizer for the inmates.
Correct. They were supposed to lift several bans that were prohibiting the use of sanitizer and other various cleaning products.
Okay. Now, did you contact the Department of Corrections and talk to them about your concerns?
Correct. I started at his facility, and through different levels of staff members there, starting with his caseworker and then going of the house to the warden, and spoke to the warden an extent about the issue, them running out of soap, them not having sanitizer, where the sanitizer was at, because he said that, at one point that he did say that they had sanitizer, and I said, okay, and it's readily available to both employee and inmate. And he said, well, no. And I said, okay, well, then where is it at? And he said it was in the entrances. It was where the employees clock out at several different desks and throughout the building. And I said, okay, so the offenders can get to it? And he said, no, well, they don't get it. They don't get to have it. Because it's considered contraband, because of, we're afraid of what they can do with it. And I had mentioned Governor Parson saying in his briefing that that was supposed to be lifted temporarily, so that they could have access to those things. And he had no comment. Like he didn't say anything.
So he just clammed up and didn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't deny that the governor had lifted the ban, though, either, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it sounds...
And I basically had to say, after so long of silence, I said, you have no comment because what you're doing is wrong, or what you're allowing is wrong.
Do the inmates at the facility, like your husband, do they have masks? Do they have gloves? Do they have anything?
No, there's no gloves, there's no masks, there's no, even toilet paper and Kleenex is nil to none. I know that the one COVID case that's been confirmed was in St. Joe, Missouri, and it's been reported that the two inmates that had to clean his area, his room, the vehicles that he was transported in, they had no PP, no nothing, no gloves. And we know that, the prisons carry gloves. That's the one thing that I know that they do have. But they weren't even offered gloves, no gowns, no nothing.
So they basically took these two inmates that are just there serving their sentence, and they sent them into a COVID positive room and had them clean up after this COVID infected inmate with nothing on.
Correct.
Okay, now it's my understanding that the supposed one case of COVID throughout the entire Department of Corrections, which I find somehow I don't really believe there's only one COVID case there, because you have staff coming in and out, you have visitors that were coming in and out, and the one case where they did report that they had a COVID positive person, that individual passed away.
Yes, he passed away, and we know, the public knows of two different prisons. He was the current prison that he came to the hospital from, and then he was transported to that prison from another facility.
So there's at least two facilities.
Yes. at least 2 facilities that he was exposed in.
Now, it's also my understanding that the inmates did not just clean that vehicle, the transport vehicle in his room once. They actually cleaned it twice.
Yes, they cleaned it twice. After, I think it was probably after they told their loved ones, their families, that they were forced to do this and they were worried and, blah, 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 that they were made to go back in there. And that time,
So my understanding is that after they cleaned up the first time that they had no personal protective equipment on, PPE, they actually had to clean everything a second time?
Yes, that is correct. I'm guessing that after they, called their families, they got complaints, the facility, and they made them go clean it again, but with all PPE, gloves, hairnets, gowns, even little deals over their shoes. I mean, it was all 9 yards, everything, and then just because they could say that it was provided.
Right.
I know that's why. That's crazy.
So basically, the first time never happened.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I bet it was never documented either.
Right.
This time was, though.
Well, this is the thing. They transported this one guy, and it's really sad. I mean, you got to ask yourself, how long did he actually have COVID for? Because, we know that COVID doesn't just hit you and take you out in a day.
Right.
This is over a period of time. So how long was this poor guy suffering with COVID and the institution wasn't getting him treated outside? And when did they actually test him, knowing that COVID was out there? When did they test him to find out he was COVID positive? And then what did they do after that? That's the bad thing. I got to tell you, I highly doubt that there was one case in the whole Department of Corrections. If they have one case, God bless them. It's
right.
Good, because I mean, I'm looking over court paperwork that was filed in another state, and this is actually from a corrections union, and they outright say, why do we have, this is just a portion of the whole thing. It says, why do we have 2 inmates who tested positive on a regular housing unit, J73 and G43? These inmates were released to general population even before 7 days of quarantine. Why aren't those housing units on quarantine with the appropriate PPE for staff? I mean, this is something else too. I mean, I know that you're bringing up that your husband doesn't have, and the other guys there don't have soap, don't have the proper sanitizer and all that. But you're not just saying it for the inmates. You're actually, I mean, I talked to you, you're actually bringing this up not just for the inmates, but for the staff as well.
Right, exactly, because, I mean, the staff are the ones that, in theory, potentially go ahead and bring it back out here, and it's just going to be a revolving door. And not only the staff are at risk, but this will blow your mind. There's a church that is here in, it's out a little outside of Springfield, and Fordland is only 30 minutes from me, and it was James River Church. They had a confirmed case of COVID-19, and they volunteer at my husband's prison, and they were being allowed inside the prison after they canceled visitation, and there was supposed to be, like a statewide facility not lockdown, but nobody, unless you were an employee, in or out.
Right. Modified. It was a modified programming, they call it.
Yeah. The volunteers from that church were still allowed to come in.
I think in a way that was probably done because, of the religion thing, but I mean, it doesn't matter. They were still allowed to come back in, and they still, there's a possibility they were spreading it. And then you got to think too, not only are you taking into effect, the inmates, your husband, then the other inmates, then the staff, but now these staff members are dealing with everybody on a daily basis, and they can bring this stuff home.
Yep.
So, I mean,
right back out.
Right. You can,
and then their families go and see, it's a ripple effect.
Right, exactly. And I mean, that's why I'm saying I got to be honest with you. From seeing what's going on at other institutions, knowing that Missouri itself had, as of today, when I was, looking up everything and doing research, Missouri had almost 4,000 cases. I think it was like 101 people had already passed away as well. I find it kind of hard to believe that the institution itself only had one case. And not just the institution, but the entire Department of Corrections. I mean, I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. But I feel like that's one of the very many, many, many secrets that Missouri Department of Corrections holds, for sure.
I'm going to say this, too. To the Missouri Department of Corrections, I hope you guys hear this, and I'm going to call you out. Why don't you produce the actual numbers? Show us each facility and how many cases you do and don't have. If you really don't have them, then you don't have them. But let's see what you really have. Let's not fudge the numbers. On a separate note, I also wanted to bring up something, to do with you. I know that you were interviewed by a local TV station, and I know that the department, I know how they portrayed you guys. It's totally wrong the way you were portrayed, but not just that. The department, the one good thing that came out of that whole interview was the fact that when the media contacted the Department of Corrections dealt with them via email, didn't really answer their questions, and when they tried to get them to go on to talk to them, nope, sorry, no comment. Just like the warden did with you, no comment. That shows that there's something to hide.
Absolutely. They would answer the reporter's questions, but every time she had asked them if they would be willing to do a Skype interview or a phone interview. That question was totally ignored.
If there's anything that you had to tell anybody who has a loved one in any of the facilities in the Department of Corrections in Missouri, or actually anywhere in the whole U.S., what would you say to them regarding COVID-19 and how Department of Corrections are handling it?
How they're handling it? They're not handling it at all. They're not doing anything to protect our loved ones. They're not doing anything to protect their employees, their volunteers, and it's really disgusting. I would say to the families that now is not the time to be silent. You need to be loud, and you need to make phone calls and write emails, and do it every single day. Every single day, call your governor, call the facilities, voice your concerns. You get hung up on, but don't stop calling.
Right. So basically, if you really do love those that are in prison right now, and actually, again, like I said, care about the staff that are there, because the staff members are going to, like you said, it's going to be a revolving door. So you want to make sure that the inmates and the staff members are taken care of. So if you guys are listening, by all means, call the Department of Corrections. Call if your loved one is with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, in the Federal Bureau of Prisons facility, no matter what state it is, call them, find out, say, hey, look, what is your system? What is your pandemic system? What are you doing for our loved ones on the inside? And don't just take it for granted. Check with your loved ones when they call. A lot of facilities are giving phone calls now. Check with them, make sure they're okay. Niko, I really appreciate you, coming on and talking to me about this. And I hope that Missouri actually does hear this. And I hope they do the right thing and they take care of the inmates that are in their care and custody. That's the thing. The inmates are in their care and their custody. They're in their custody, but they also have to take care of them.
Right.
And that's what we want to make sure happens.
Right. And that, that is the one thing that I tried to get across. I wanted to get across in the KY3 news story was that I'm not just looking for a mass release, and because quite frankly, my husband is not one of the men that would qualify for for release at this point. But as a wife, as somebody with a loved one in prison, I have the right to know that he is being taken care of and that he has soap,
And
at
that
the
he's
very
safe.
least, to wash his hands and, clean his area. It's ridiculous. And he should be able to know that he can have these things and, not have to just, I love President Trump calls it the invisible enemy, and it really is. And they don't have anything to defend themselves. Nothing.
Right. Well, I've talked to people in other prisons across the U.S. There's other shows that are on this very platform that they're listening to, that the listeners are listening to right now, dealing with coronavirus. Pennsylvania, California, 1 bar of soap a month. And it's even a little trial size, sample size bar of soap. And when these guys go up and say, hey, they're preaching that they have this pandemic plan, and these guys walk up and say, hey, can I get another bar of soap? I don't have any. And it's like, not our problem. That's what they get told, not their problem.
Absolutely. My husband's Sally was told that he needed to file a grievance if he didn't like it. He asked for more soap.
Right, and like I said, they're in the care and custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for their state, and that also means they're supposed to be safe. And right now, they're not.
Fully agree.
Okay, again, thanks for coming on, and I'm going to get this out so everybody can hear this, and hopefully Missouri will hear this. I'm going to take the liberty to make sure they do. Hopefully they actually do something.
I hope so. I appreciate you.
Thanks. Hey, guys, and there you have it. The state of Missouri may or may not be doing the right thing to protect individuals from the coronavirus, that being inmates and staff members. If you want to keep this show going, please donate to paypal.me/Joe Tomaso, paypal.me/JoeTomaso. And if there's any questions, suggestions, or if there's somebody you want me to interview, please email me at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Again, that's insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Hope to see you all soon. Stay safe. Stay healthy.